Yes, apologies for the slight lateness. Banging my head against the wall there. Wait for a moment, just clicked a few buttons. Need to do all the bit here. We click the big button. Hey, there we go. That's better. Yes, apologies. Slightly delayed, just because the Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council meeting, sort of facilities and estates and stuff, that is ongoing. I've just listened to a councillor try to say that there are lots of local rinks that other skaters could go to in Basingstoke, because of course Guildford is local to Basingstoke, as is Bracknell, which of course doesn't technically exist anymore. They thought the Hive was still in existence. That's really promising, isn't it? Speaks volumes. Either way, we will let people wander their way in. No warm-up question. I also don't have my phone on me, so I'm relying on you lot for the news tonight. My phone's hitting the... it's low on battery, so I've had to charge it up in a different room. But we are back in front of the hockey shelf. We'll let people scroll their way in. Evening all. Andrew Day, of course, is in. Make sure you follow Andrew if you don't already. Andrew Day 111 and all the good stuff. Jonathan, Karen, Danny, thank you for joining. Yeah, like I say, no warm-up question, just because I didn't have time to set one. And yeah, let's get rocking and rolling, and we'll kind of explain of what's going on. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night, it is 8 PM, back where we belong, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to bring you once again through the weird, wonderful and wacky world of the National Ice Hockey League structure here in Great Britain. We focus on the National Division, that is our bread and butter and our home port, but of course we're here to have a look through and a walk through everything from across the NIHL structure. That means the National Division, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north, and in the south. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. And obviously, goals galore. The latest write-up on the website went out about 2.5 hours ago, which was a superb comeback or a capitulation, depending on how you look at it. Lots of stuff going on, and like I say, I've got a bit of a big announcement in terms of an upcoming interview that's coming out relatively soon. He says accidentally trying to not kick something over down by his foot. But let's go through all the little housekeeping bits and pieces before. Whether you're old, whether you're new, you should know the score. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the National Ice Hockey League, as well as where you can follow all of my writing, edging ever closer to the 1,000th piece on Banners on the Wall, which is somewhat disconcerting when you think of how much of my time has gone into that. But yeah, new banners on the road. So of course, with the Basingstoke Bison not playing, they are of course somewhere out there beyond the mist at the moment. So of course, you get to follow my weird and wonderful journey through British ice hockey. Last weekend in Gosport for what has become the sort of accidental Banners on the Wall tradition of seeing Solent versus Invicta happening right at the beginning of the season, because they always seem to play each other at the beginning of the season. But a good in-depth write-up on that one is over there on the website. Now, you can also check in with our Hockey Stories series, of course, long-form content pieces about the weird and wonderful world of ice hockey. Struggling to pin down my last interviewee for a piece that I'm writing, but we'll get there eventually on that one. It is in production. But, as I said, there's a very big interview coming out soon, which I'll talk about in a minute. But you've got 13 years worth of content back from the starting days, following the Basingstoke Bison through the EPL, through the NIHL, into the mists of time for the moment, and then of course stuff from across all the different tiers of British ice hockey. The old BOTW podcast, Dice Hockey, our free to download table game, all of that is over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. We are on Twitter at bannersotw, or Facebook Banners on the Wall. But of course the joy is all of the links are down there in the description, because this is it, Wednesday nights, YouTube, 8 PM here on the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever stuff goes live, because of course we do the show here every Wednesday. Videos of interviews with the big moves and shakers of British and world hockey. Lots of fun stuff that you can get from the channel. And also the link to our Buy Me a Coffee page at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Apologies, tripping over my words there. Buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. We're never going behind the paywall, but if you like what you see and want to help keep the lights on and wheels turning, that is always massively appreciated. And of course, because we're live on YouTube, which means you get the chat function. Comments, questions, thoughts and feelings, anything you want to chuck in as we move along, then feel free to put that in there. Of course, though, if you are putting stuff in the chat, do remember the golden rule here at BOTW, DBAD, don't be a dick, be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we will have a wonderful old time. See a few other people hopping in the chat. Chris Beale of Two for Flinching. If you haven't checked out the latest bits and pieces that Chris is doing for Streatham, of course, now getting highlights from the high road, which of course is what we like to see. I can see Shah Holdaway, first time for a live one in about 1.5 years of watching. Well, that's fantastic, Shah. So thank you very much for joining the live party. Of course, we love all our folk who join in, whether you watch live, whether you catch up later. That is the joy of YouTube, of course. Somebody did ask me why I do Twitch, and it's because the watchbacks on Twitch are just really... I don't like the interface. It's just so much easier on YouTube. And it's also easier to embed stuff as well once I've done interviews and bits and pieces. Now, we will start by talking about this week because, of course, you might have seen some bits and pieces. Last night I joined the guys at A View from the Bridge, the official Belfast Giants podcast. We had a chat about player development. I've known Patrick Smith from AVFTB for a very, very long time. It's edging on 2 decades now. And we've always talked about getting me on to have a chat about something, and eventually kind of the scenario presented itself where it made sense for me to come on. Had a really, really good chat. And, obviously, it's a thing that Patrick and I have disagreed on for a very long time, but really good experience, really good to get in front of a different audience to talk about how things are in the levels below the Elite League. And, of course, I've now got my own crossover into the Elite League as well with my commentary work. So it was fun to be able, and a good challenge for me, what are my thoughts? How can I articulate them in a different way? How can I get people to maybe look outside of that sort of Elite League bubble into what's coming from below, and not look at it as it's not good enough, but it's something we can work with, which is something I genuinely do believe. The big issue I've had this week is that this has been the plague house. BOTW house has very much been the sickness zone. My son got ill on Saturday, who then gave it to my wife, who then gave it to me. So the argument of whether I should have actually done anything yesterday at all was very high, and I should have probably stayed in bed, but I deliberately stayed in bed for a very long time to then have the energy to do AVFTB yesterday evening. The other thing I did, though, was AVFTB was not the only thing I recorded last night. I'll do the announcement now and we'll repeat it at the end, but one of the things that I've always tried to do is to bring people different things, and it's not to kind of say I don't like the style of what other people do, but I think sometimes too many people try to do too much of the same thing, where people have, and I get why people want to have the interviews with, sort of players of the moment and stuff like that. And I've hit that point after doing BOTW for 13 years where I'm looking for different stories, and I'm looking for different angles, and I'm looking for different things. With that being said, sometimes you need to shoot for the moon and potentially kind of land in the stars in terms of getting some of those bigger bits and pieces. One of the things that has confused British hockey fans for a really, really long time, and one of the criticisms of a lot of stuff in British hockey is its transparency, is getting the answers from the people who are making some of those decisions or who are in charge of those bits and pieces. And one of those big things last year, particularly in its first year, was the NIHL Department of Player Safety. And last year was the first year, and a lot of people kind of agree that it maybe didn't go well. That is why, and having had a lot of conversations behind the scenes, having done pre-meetings with people, having made the point that what I do is of quality, value, and that people will get a fair shake but get robust questions into it. Friday night, the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel, my interview with Ken Riddell and Alan Batchelor, the head of NIHL Department of Player Safety, will go live on the BOTW YouTube channel. We do chat a little bit about Ken Taggart because, God rest his soul, he was a very, very well-known figure. But we also talk about the issues for DOPS last year, Alan and Ken's position where they came in midway through last season as the interim heads, and what they are doing now as the actual permanent heads going forward, the mistakes of last year, what they wanted to change, what they felt they couldn't change, what has changed going forward. So that is coming up on, that should be coming out Friday evening, probably around sort of the 8 o'clock region with no Friday night games in the NIHL National Division this week. It felt like a good time to kind of get that out. But I wanted to do something different, and I made the point, and I've made the point to folk at England Ice Hockey, that it's time to step out into the light. We obviously had Dan Smith last year from the board come on and do a show live, which was crazy. But yeah, so the two heads of the National Ice Hockey League's Department of Player Safety will, this interview has been recorded. It is recorded. It is done. It's just about releasing it at the appropriate time. It will come out this Friday evening on the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. So where I keep saying to you lot about hitting the subscribe button and hitting that notification bell so you can get alerted, that's why you kind of need to do it, because this is the kind of stuff I keep trying to work on in the background. And this is not the last person from England Ice Hockey I am determined to get on the show. This is hopefully the start, and where people will see that there is value to speaking out in public to the fans, which is one of the biggest stakeholders in this sport, particularly at senior level where people pay money to go and watch games. So really, really looking forward to you guys seeing that one. Alan and Ken have been around the game in Great Britain for a very, very long time, and they obviously have a lot to say. There are some things that we disagree on, there are some things that we agree on, but I'm really looking forward to seeing for you to see that as BOTW and DOPS go one-on-one this coming Friday. Either way, a pretty busy weekend's worth of action that we kind of need to go through from across the divisions, because it was the first weekend of action in the National Ice Hockey League National Division, the PINIHL, or as I'm calling it, the National Division, because nobody pays me for sponsorship. Either way, like I say, it's been a pretty busy weekend, so we're just going to click. Oh no, wrong button. I've pressed the wrong button. That's Division 1 and Division 2. I want to go here. There we go. Because then I can do this bit. Just organising bits and pieces and life on my screen and everything like that. Because, of course, everything started off in the National Division. Started off last Friday, where we had opening night, as it were. And, of course, the Nels, so heavily involved between the two of them, and also very heavily involved in the fixture bits and pieces, meant that we got opening night on Friday night. The first game of the 24-25 National Division season went down at the Link Centre, and in the end a pretty comfortable 6-2 win for the Swindon Wildcats over the Berkshire Bees. This one was a very interesting one, and the Bees actually striking first. Marcel Balash there with that first goal on the power play, and I thought actually the Bees did a really good job of neutralising Swindon through that first 20 minutes. So I did, had the stream, I did watch it. It was for 20 minutes, I felt the Bees have really good structure, did everything you kind of need to do against an Aaron Nell Swindon side, which is you clog the neutral zone and you stop them getting the passes through. And then in the second period, the Bees abandoned that plan, as we can kind of see. And also an element of controversy about that first goal from Swindon. I can certainly, it was washed out and then given afterwards. I can kind of see why Stephen Matthews didn't initially give the Aaron Nell goal there at the beginning, mostly due to the fact that certainly from the angle behind the goal, it doesn't really convince you that it went in, although a couple of the other officials, probably better positioned, they felt that it has crossed the line, and that sort of settled that one. But as you can see, in the second period there, they kind of got the momentum going Swindon. It took them a little while to break down the Bees, but then eventually the dam did break. Jake Bricknell, Balint Pacotti with a bit of a horror show goal for Max Wright looping up over his shoulder. Bricknell's second, a power play goal for Chris Jones, and then before Balash getting a second of the night, and then a late goal from Reed Sayers to finish stuff off there. And he says he's just going to press a button, because we should hopefully then move along into Saturday evening in a 0-point weekend to start the weekend for the Bees. Two performances that there's elements of Friday night's performance that they won't be very happy with, but certainly elements of Saturdays where actually I think they probably should be quite proud. They do lose to the Peterborough Phantoms by 2-1, and a Phantom side missing a lot of top line guys. No Yanni Larkinen, no Duncan Spears, a bunch of other guys out of the lineup, and two somewhat unexpected goal scorers, Tom Norton and Tom Palmer doing the business. A 1+1 night for Palmer as the Phantoms pick up their first win of the season. Vanya Antonov with the lone goal for the Bees in that one. So maybe sort of results over performance over results in that sense there for the Bees. A big attendance on on Saturday evening at the Thunderdome, and goals galore. Like we said, there's a lot of goals flying around. 11 goals in this one between the MK Lightning and the Romford Raiders. MK, of course, 3-0 up at one point before the Raiders pulled it back to 3-0. Very sort of back and forwards game in this one at the Thunderdome. James Griffin, Harry Gulliver and Rio Grinnell Park putting the Lightning ahead before Marco Pascali, Brandon Aliff and Sean Miller got them sort of back into it. Sorry, Harry Gulliver, who was 4-0 before, and then back to 4-3. I will learn to count and read the time, apparently. But yes, Harry Gulliver with the fourth. Martin Susters then making it 5-3. Andrew Schufel making it 5-4 before goals then from sort of Ross Venus and Corey McEwen putting things out of sight. No goal after the 44th minute, just to make things interesting on that one. He says, just having a quick look at the chat. As we move along there to Saturday night, well, 11 goals in one game, 11 goals for one team on Saturday night. The Bristol Pitbulls absolutely fully put to the sword against the Hull Seahawks. It was it was a close game to a point, and then everything just got sort of completely blown away. 3-2 at the 32:05 mark before the Seahawks decided that they were having none of this nonsense and absolutely smashing the Pitbulls away on home ice. 8 points for Emil Svek being the headline out of this one, going 4+4 on the night, and a debut to forget for Tommy Napier in the Bristol goal. And then the other game from Saturday evening, the first game of the season up at the Shark Tank, more goals, more goals and more goals. 13 in this one, including the Leeds Knights scoring an absolute peach of an own goal. Of course, we don't have own goals in ice hockey. You credit it to the last person on that team to touch the puck, but Jordan Buesa flicking the puck the length of the ice into his own net, and a hat trick as well for Nolan Gardner into the bargain. He being credited with that goal, but ultimately it doesn't stop the fact that the Knights smashed their way through. A hat trick for Finn Braden and an 8-5 win as the champions start their defence of their title on Saturday evening. And then, of course, Sunday, it was the big one, the big main event of the weekend, and a statement made by the Leeds Knights at home at the Castle. No Kean Brown, of course, this weekend, recovering from a concussion, but a hat-trick for Matt Barron in this game as the Lightning were put to the sword. Finn Braden, Matt Hayward, Innes Gallagher getting goals in that one as well. Ross Venus, Tim Wallace and Martin Susters with the goals for the Lightning. Easy this early on in the season to be worried. MK will probably be quite frustrated. Certainly some of the ability to kind of stop the Knights in transition will probably worry them a bit. I did see a few people talking about the fact that Milton Keynes got caught quite high. It's the nature of having quite a high-powered attacking team. You are going to get caught high, and you need to have a defence for that. That said, 2 games into the season, MK will be worried about the amount of goals they've conceded. Of course, that's 11 goals conceded in 2 games. That will definitely be higher than Tim Wallace will be looking for, especially with an import defenceman on the ice. But this is an import defenceman in Jordan Spadafor that's got to adjust himself to playing in British hockey. It is different playing in the NIHL from playing in the SPHL. The penalties are called differently. The game is played differently. And ultimately, 2 games into the season, it's not good to lose to the Leeds Knights, but a lot of people lose to the Leeds Knights. Ultimately, MK's biggest issue was losing to teams further down the table. Yes, you might lose this one to Leeds, but it won't matter so much if you win the next 5. MK's issue has always been losing those games on the road to teams lower down the table. And then, well, I watched one comeback, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the Romford Raiders were behind the 8 ball for the majority of the game. Went into the 58th minute, 2 goals to 0 down thanks to Ed Bradley and Edgar Zbebris. But it's the Romford Raiders who get the win after overtime. So Swindon do get 3 points on the weekend, but we'll be pretty disappointed by the end of this one as Sean Miller and Andrew Schufel, obviously the 2 imports, making headway early for the Raiders. They certainly certainly have been impressive in pre-season and were impressive against Milton Keynes and have done the job here. Before Jake Sylvester, one of the Raiders of old, showing a fantastic bit of patience in overtime to beat Rennie Marr from a narrow angle and send the Swindon Wildcats fans back around the M25 and down the M4, frustrated as to how things have gone. Then there's the other game on Sunday. This was a game actually I watched. A massive thank you to the Hull Seahawks for sorting me out with the stream so I could watch this one, if only so I could listen to Joe Lamplow on the commentary. on this. But again, a really poor weekend for the Bristol Pitbulls. 20 goals conceded in 2 games. Tommy Napier only managing to make it through the first period in this one before Tyler Delabertouche getting his competitive debut for the Bristol Pitbulls. And the first goal he conceded ended up as National Division's goal of the week from Owen Sobchuk. But it was the Seahawks in full ascendancy and at full power. Dimitri Zimostra will be frustrated with letting Elliot Lewis beat him to nix his shutout right at the end. Certainly worth watching the highlights of this one. Some very well taken goals by the Seahawks. The issue for the Pitbulls was the defence. The team defence was just absolutely not where it needed to be. It felt like the D were either static watching the puck or off on side quests in places they needed to be. So, like I said, the Sobchuk goal, the 4th goal there, really, really well taken. Definitely worth checking out the highlights as well. A great job by Declan Jones on his goal as well, and Caden Hannas, who's going to be the master of the tip-in by the look of it, his fly-by screen to tip the puck past Napier for the first goal. Very, very pretty, but another high-scoring night for the Seahawks. The top line was sort of 20 points between them heading out of the first weekend of the campaign. And then eventually, well, no home game for them this weekend, but the Sheffield Steel Dogs are up and running for the season. Obviously, a lot of issues with injuries. Sam Tremblay lent to the Sheffield Steelers for the CHL games, and the big injury as well to Ivan Bjorkley-Nordstrom. We don't know when we're going to see him back at the moment, taking on a Peterborough side that's suffering from injuries of its own. If nothing else, we need to get some sort of consensus on this, because I've said it's Howe, Hugh, and then the Peterborough Phantoms webcast people, when I watch the highlights, called him Cameron Huff. So if we can have some sort of consensus, please, as to how I pronounce Hough, that'd be massively appreciated. But the guys for Peterborough, the guys you want scoring goals have scored goals there. Ferrara, I'm going to go for Howe, because that's how I would say that, and Austin Mitchell-King. You want those guys getting on the board. Peterborough as well, 3-0 to the good in this one before Sheffield come roaring back. 2 goals in the game for Walker Summer, 2 for Sam Tremblay, and a 5th goal, the empty netter, coming from the captain Jonathan Kirk, as Sheffield embark on this brand new venture for them. And then the last game from Sunday, well, they scored 5 goals the night before and lost, and this time they scored 5 goals and 1 on the road. A big win for the Solway Sharks away in Telford against the Tigers. Telford, who looked a bit indifferent during pre-season at times. They were 3-2 up before things fell away in this one. 2 goals for Mason Alderson, 2 for Nolan Gardner, who's again looking very, very sharp in pre-season, and a goal for Olivier Arsenault, as the Sharks get their first win of the season much quicker than they got it in their opening campaign in the National Division. We're not going to bother looking at the table for the National Division, because what's the point after one game? And with so many goals scored, we all know that Hull are top. But we will take a look at the fixtures for this upcoming weekend, of course, thanks to Max Van Mullen on the graphics for this one. And things do not get easier for the Bristol Pitbulls. They are at home on Saturday to the Leeds Knights, fresh off of a 4-point weekend for the league champions. Hull take on Telford at the world's most versatile arena. A very interesting tie on Saturday night between the MK Lightning and the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Peterborough take on the Bees in a return match from last Sunday. And apparently it's country night in Swindon as they take on the Solway Sharks. I will be in Swindon for this game, as I'm not a fan of country music, probably with earplugs in my ears, but I do want to see my friends from Scotland at the first opportunity, so I will catch you all at the Link Centre this Saturday evening. And then on Sunday, having played last Friday evening, the Bees and the Wildcats will do battle again, this time at the Hangar in Slough. Romford take on Peterborough. Sheffield finally get a home game. They will take on the Bristol Pitbulls to continue the tough start to the season for Barry McKenzie's men. Solway head home to take on Hull. And of course, it's Sunday evening, 6:30 p.m. at the Telford Ice Rink. The Tigers take on the Knights. So that's the National Division for the time being as well. Hopefully all of those graphics showed up nice and well. Yeah, yeehaw! Yeah, thanks, Tom. I have to say though, fair play on the emoji usage there. What have we got in the chat though? Rennie Marr played really well all game. Didn't look like Raiders would beat him until the 57th minute, and momentum changed. Such is the nature of momentum in hockey, and I'll talk about that in a minute when I talk about the game I saw last weekend. As much as Leeds were very good, Lightning were very bad, and there seems to be no game plan to counter what Leeds bring on home ice. Aldridge schooling Wallace again, very concerning. I mean, there's certainly the frustration that's always that's there in terms of where has the learning been done, especially having played them last season. And I said that the issue for Leeds this year was they potentially will suffer from the fact that you can only be so good doing the same thing for so long. What adjustments do Leeds make to avoid being solved, particularly by the high offense teams like Milton Keynes, like Hull, like Swindon? What are they going to do to kind of counteract everybody just kind of knowing what they bring? And actually, the answer is just by doing what they do better than anybody else. For MK, like we said, there's a real issue. It seems with doing that. But the thing for MK is they've got time, and they've now seen what Leeds bring, and they know obviously the additional element of Kieran Brown coming back into the lineup is something they're going to need to counter. But also, that this is a new MK defence as well. Taking long established guys out, bringing a guy in who does a different job. Different forwards who've got to do that sort of team defence element as well. It's really easy to be down about it. But 2 games into the season, I think losing to last season's league champions is frustrating and upsetting. I don't think it's panic stations in the same way I'd be panicking if I was a Bristol fan right now, because I watched the stream on Sunday between Hull and Bristol, and the team defence is all over the show for Bristol on Sunday. There was no structure. There was no structure going forward or going back, and I think that was the real big issue there. I mean, people, there's some talk that Tommy Napier's picked up a small injury, but whether it was Napier or Tyler Delabatouche or Patrick Roy, with defence not doing anything for you, the keepers were hung out to dry all weekend. There was absolutely nothing either of them could have done. Napier's issue as well, if Napier gets set, he stops it. If you get him moving, he looks to be quite uncomfortable on being lateral. More so in a way than Delabatouche, as a younger netminder with less experience, does. He seems to handle moving better, but Tyler will get beaten by shots when set that Napier won't, because he's a bit bigger and a bit more experienced and has kind of better anticipation that comes with time. So it's a tough one there. I must admit I was surprised how comfortable it was for Leeds given Brown was out. Currently laying down the early marker if nothing else, which is exactly what that sort of strategy will benefit Leeds as well, if I'm honest, Tom. The thing with Leeds, I think, sometimes as well, is fear factor. If you go into a game thinking that you just want to keep them close and maybe we'll nick a goal here and there, you're putting yourself on the back foot before you've even started. It's almost better in some ways to just go out and try and smash Leeds about, because you will play your game better than... If you try to stop Leeds will find a way to break you down. If you go out and play your own game, then you will find ways to do that. The advantage, I think, actually, in Tom being a Swindon supporter, I think that Swindon are a good example of this, because Swindon are a team that traditionally plays down to their opponents who don't play as good a style as they do, and play up to their sort of higher quality opponents. Swindon found that ability by almost kind of just sort of playing the games like, right, you want to do quick passes out from the D and quick transitions, well, we can do that too, and kind of sort of having that battle with Leeds almost, I say on their own terms, it's Swindon's terms. Let's be honest, Ryan Aldrich spent a very, very long time coaching bits and pieces in Swindon, so it's not a new strategy to Aaron Nell to have to kind of counter that. But yeah, Leeds have come firing out of the traps. Obviously, people will talk about the fact that Hull have scored lots of goals. Well, Hull have scored lots of goals against a team that does not appear to have found its way yet in Bristol. And I think the real issue here for Bristol is to just find that extra element of structure that they can kind of do. The D felt like on Sunday they were walking, they felt like they were on side quests at times. It was, they were not anywhere near where they needed to be, which is frustrating because they've got a lot of very good young, talented defensemen. Sam Smith I like a lot. Jacob White-Say, who definitely should be getting look-ins at national division level. But guys were just not where they were meant to be. Guys were not picking up the assignments when they needed to pick them up, and Hull ran rings around them. And it was not a good start for Bristol, and I think that's something they kind of need to address quite quickly. In the same way that Lightning fans will think, oh well, we've lost, we've conceded a lot of goals. An interesting conversation actually, because Belfast, the chaps on AVFTB were chatting about how Belfast have let in a lot of goals, but they've got results and aren't necessarily panicking in the same way. MK got 2 points out of the weekend. I don't know what MK fans necessarily were expecting. Were they expecting to beat Leeds in Leeds? Because that feels like it might have been an overestimation. I wouldn't have necessarily blamed Lightning fans for saying we should be getting at least 3 points out of this weekend, but expecting to beat Leeds in Leeds might have been a bit too far, especially 2 games into the season with a rejigged roster from last year. Maybe that's just me. Apologies, just having a bit of a stretch there. As I said, yeah, it's been a bit of a plague house. Everything aches, which is a bit of a tough one. But yeah, so the National Division opening up. Peterborough, ton of injuries again already, which is always a little bit ominous, I feel. Not being able to see Ferrara and Lackinen, who would have been really interesting to see that sort of full-powered Phantoms top line at home against Sheffield early on, which obviously we've not got. But it does allow for the fact that Spears to be added back into the lineup, Lackinen to be added back into the lineup. A few guys being able to come back in later and add that kind of different dimension the next time they play. Although again, people get so many injuries. Are they cursed? Did they need to exercise some demons out of the ring at Breton? What do we need to do here to kind of help them on that one? But the Steel Dogs, of course, a lot expected of the Steel Dogs. I had them in that sort of chasing pack behind the top 2 of Leeds and MK. But obviously, certainly the imports doing the business that they wanted them to do. Walker Summer and Sam Tremblay getting 2 goals apiece in your opening game of the season is pretty impressive. I do find it amusing that we are having a shirt unveiling night for the Steelers and the Steel Dogs after both have already started playing their competitive seasons, but we will scratch our heads about that one for later, I think. We're expecting it to be closer. I assume that's meant to mean, but the performance was unacceptable. Wallace is under pressure this year to get results and be closer to Leeds. You're 2 games in, Jamie. You're overreacting. I'm sorry, but you're overreacting on that one. Let's have this conversation in December, late November, early December, and then see how things are then. Because for me, this is still a forming group. It's still a forming group. All teams are Leeds are arguably better form than others because they made such little change. But that MK side has had a massive change. It's had 2 big characters gone out of its dressing room. There's no point panicking on day 2. It's just pointless. Like it's wasted energy at this point. See how this MK team learns to be an MK team. Because if we get to the end of this season and Leeds have won the league but MK win the cup and the playoffs, how will we feel about it then? I mean, everybody else will be miserable because MK fans won't shut up about it for the next 30 years. But I think it's really easy on day 2 to be frustrated with a poor performance and a poor result. But let's look at it in the context of the wider thing. Leeds have potentially shown their hand now. If Tim Wallace is a good coach, he will find a way to extract all of the information that they've learned and do something about it. And ultimately, MK have got a couple of games this weekend where they can press on and turn around, because if Leeds slip up, Milton Keynes need to win their games around them. That's what they need to do. That game's gone, it's done, can't do anything with it now. You can only focus now on kind of what's in front of you. And that sounds very cliched to say, but it's true. You win what's put in front of you, and MK can't harp too much now on the fact that they've lost to Leeds. They need to learn the lessons from that and then go into the next games and win them. Is the pressure on Wallace? The pressure will always be on Tim Wallace because MK are one of the biggest spenders in this division. That is anecdotally one of those things everybody just kind of accepts. And I should say, from bits and pieces that I'm aware of, if it's not true, they are definitely second. So the pressure will always be on if you spend a lot of money to produce results and do really well. But that's the nature of being a coach in a semi-professional sport like this. The pressure will always be on to a degree. And Tim Wallace has put together a roster that is capable of winning every trophy this year. They do have to perform. The buck stops with him. But yeah, the fact he's under pressure, yeah, he's under pressure because He should be under pressure, given the resources at his disposal and the team he puts together. Anything else in the National Division before we move on? Because there's a lot of action and a lot of goals to chat about in the other leagues. He's just having more water. We have to get the commentary this year. That's a non-negotiable given the previous years. And it's better when the Barmy Army is there in full force. I would probably agree you do have to make Coventry, yes. So I think that's probably a non-negotiable on that front. As for the Barmy Army, well, the Barmy Army turn up in pretty full force every year anyway, so I don't think that's as much of an issue. Only thing I will say to MK, and a big ha-ha to the person who bought the "No one likes us, we don't care" flag. But yeah, it will be everyone v MK, which is hilarious given the fact that Leeds have won so much and everybody still prefers to cheer against MK than Leeds. But that is what it is on that one. Either way, 20-9. So let's have a quick squiz then at the results from elsewhere. We'll have a quick look at 1 North first, just because there was a few bits and pieces going on, but only the one game on Saturday. 2 games in North, 1 on Saturday. He says, again, I've learned to read, I swear. But a big start from the Billingham Stars, of course, beating Blackburn last weekend. A huge result to set a marker down. Winning 3-1 the weekend before, and then on Saturday at the Forum, absolutely smashing the life out of the D-side Dragons. Hat-tricks for Roland Grittans and James Moss on the way for the Stars, hitting a 11-1 win over the D-side. And then Hull Jets. Hull Jets win at home. That's where they win at home. 2 goals for Bailey Thompson on his 2 away from Solway with Widnes, but 2 goals for Vlads Volkanovs, and then goals for Robertson, Britton, Kerman, Haggard, Jasico, Beach, and Dainth for Hull, getting them a 9-2 win. Their good start to the season continues. A bad weekend though, as we can see, for D-side, as having faced Billingham the night before, they got Blackburn the night after and got schmacked again. An 8-1 win for Dominic Osman's side over in North Wales. 2 hat-tricks from Ruddock and Lutvich as Blackburn trot away with that game. 8 goals on 35 shots and a 3 for 7 conversion rate on the power play is mad. Whitley start off their season. It's going to be an interesting year in Whitley to see whether they can recover from last year's off year, as it were. But they smack the Lions around in terms of shot counts. 54-28 on their way to a 4-1 win at home. And then sound the alarm, start the party. The Hull Jets have won on the road. Another 2 goals for Vlads Volkanovs as they really, given how close Solihull were to the title last year, something of a shock result as the Hull Jets win by 6 goals to 1 at Hobbs-Moat Road against Solihull. A pretty sort of shocking start there for Solihull. Obviously, they did win the weekend previous, but going 1-1, they would have probably expected a better result at home against Hull, and then Billingham making a 4-point weekend. A good showing from Widnes as they in this one, but they do go down again. 2 goals from Chris Sykes as the Stars hit a 6-3 victory to finish off the weekend. As we can see there, of course, 3 points for a win in regulation in the National Division, which means at the moment we have 3 teams with perfect records. Whitley having only played 2 games, which means that the Hull Jets are currently only are 2 goals off of the top of North 1 because they've scored 18 goals in 3 matches and have a perfect 9 points. Billingham top by virtue of having scored 2 more goals, which is pretty impressive. And of course, some of these games have been counting in the cup as well. So Hull top of their group, because all of their games so far have been cup games. Only one of Billingham's games so far has also been a cup encounter, which means Whitley currently top Group A. And of course, remember that all of these box score documents are available from NIHLstats.wordpress.com. Joe Scutt's not doing bits and pieces for the National Division, of course. The National Division's brand new shiny website, NIHLnational.com, has all of the lovely stats bits and pieces there. But Joe is producing these wonderful documents that we're going to be using every week that we are able to do so. Huge fan of them. Let's press the button and get back to where I was going. There we go. So as we can see here, we can sort of skip through some of the some of the bits and pieces. Like I say, if you didn't see these last week, these fantastic documents, you can see there that Billingham 7-0 to the good before Deeside finally got themselves on the board, and then they were just punished for having the temerity to turn up. And another big lead there. Hull were 5-0 up of All Bailey Thompson getting his first 2 goals of the campaign. Very low scoring, very low penalty minutes game there as well. Only 8 minutes worth of penalties across both sides. Deeside's poor weekend, not scoring late there. Ross Kennedy, sort of getting the consolation goal there. James Riddick with 4 goals on the season in 2 games is a pretty good start there. What we will do though is we will, like I said, go make sure you check these, but we will skip to the very end because we've got the fixtures right at the very bottom for next weekend in North 1. This upcoming Saturday, the 21st September, 4:40 face-off at Ice Sheffield for the Sheffield Scimitars and the Whitley Warriors. Leeds Knights is NHL 1 side back in action after a weekend off. They take on the Hull Jets. Will Hull win away again? Eventually they might do, given the start that they've had. And a league-only fixture at Blackburn. The Hawks welcome the Nottingham Lions. Then on Sunday, lots of early face-offs. Everybody starts at 5:30. Hull take on Sheffield at the world's most versatile arena. That's league only. And then league and cup action between Leeds and Blackburn should be a really interesting game. Adam Barnes' return to the Castle following his departure a couple of years ago. Solihull versus Billingham and Widnes versus Deeside. We click that button and then we move over to South 1. He says, desperately hoping everything stayed the way it should have done. Joe's doing great work with those so far. He absolutely is, Jonathan. They are fantastic documents for people who love their stats bits and pieces. Oh, no. What have I done there? There we go. There we go. That's better. But yeah, so Saturday. And the game I was at last weekend, the Solent Devils and the Invicta Dynamos. Solent 3-0 up in the first period, thanks to Kane Russell, Alex Murray and Dan Lackey, all 3 parts of the top line initially for Solent getting goals, before goals in the second period. Evan Chard and apologies, we'll skip down just today because I've forgotten his first name. Evan Chard and Dylan Worthy, both scoring their first competitive senior goals. Evan Chard and Dylan Worthy are both 16 years old, just to make you feel really old. And Invicta were not very good in the first period at all. They looked like they did not have a plan at all. But Invicta come roaring back in this one, helped by the top line really causing a lot of problems there. A top line for Invicta of Aaron Connolly, Ollie Bronneman and Mads Toon doing some real damage. The Mads Toon's second goal of the night coming 30 seconds into that third period was huge, and then a goal just after the expiry of the power play from Callum Burnett, putting Invicta in a commanding position. A very late goal. Brad Wind, because both starting netminders pulled in this game. Owen Ryder pulled at the end of the first period for Invicta, replaced by former Romford goalie Brad Windebank. After that 5th goal went in, Aaron Taylor of the Devils, pretty much an ever-present for them, pulled for Rory Martin Edwards. And it sort of got into the last 2 minutes. Windebank was called for delay of the game, which allowed Harry Cloutman the opportunity to score. But then Aaron Connolly doing what Aaron Connolly does best, which is causing a nuisance on the with the empty net and finding a way to pop that one in. Is it truly an any face-off if everyone starts at 5:30 PM, or is it just that anything else is late? We're starting. That's getting way too into semantics there, Tom, for this time on a Wednesday night. Ben Hyde of Zero Pucks Given in the chat as well. I can see there, of course, heavily focuses on South 1. If you want to keep up to date with all the in-depth bits South 1, then do check out what Ben does. He's interviewed Swindon Wildcats, 2 netminder Brett Massey this week, of course, played for Slough last year. Will be a very interesting chat, I'm sure. You certainly got a treat at Gosport Saturday. What a game! The interesting thing I say about this is it was a game of 60 minutes where one team played for 20 and the other team played for 40, and that is how we got the result that we got in that one. Elsewhere on Saturday, just skipping through bits and pieces there. Big win for the Romford Buccaneers and the Oxford City Stars. Of course, well, they got their 1 win, but it's been some tough going for the City Stars, playing with 3 defencemen. 3 recognised defencemen on Saturday evening. 2 goals for Jack Peacock, not enough to answer the fact that the Elliot Dervish and the returning Uri Husker both getting 2 goals as the Buccaneers get a 9-2 win. Oxford had 18 shots in that entire game. Streatham, well, welcome back to Division 1 Cardiff Fire, I think is probably the short version there. Of course, some issue for Streatham. Danny Milton injured at the moment. Damien King stepping back out of retirement to help out the Red Hawks at the moment. But certainly no worries on Saturday evening at home against the Fire, a 12-1 win, outshooting their opponents from the other capital by 70 shots to 14. 2 goals for Ryan Watt, 2 goals for Brendan Baird, and 2 goals for Luke Brittle in and amongst all the fun and games on Saturday night on the high road. It means that Chris Beale will have a lot of highlights to keep tabs on. And not to be outdone, Chelmsford scored 11 goals against the MK Thunder. Zander Robinson with the low goal for the Thunder, as the Bartlett brothers did the business. Dan Fay getting 2, and a hat-trick for Halden Barnes-Garner in what was a comfortable win for Lewis Clifford's side. And then a bad night at home for the Swindon Wildcats NHL 1 side. They go down to one of the other title favourites, a 7-0 shutout win for the Slough Jets, and 6 different goal scorers on 7 goals. Luke Smittle, the only multi-goal game there, but some goals across the lines and across some of the bigger names that you expect there as well. A goal for Jack Goodchild, one for Christian Moore. Benny Lee Newman also getting himself on the score sheet there too. And then into Sunday, where it was 2 teams who won on the Saturday night, challenging each other down in Kent, and a bit of a set two, as it were. Carl Lennon talking about sort of performance over results. Not the result they would have liked, but certainly one that Invicta fans can kind of get excited about, the kind of team they're wanting to see this year. Again, getting the big scorers on the scoreboard: Dan Scott, Aaron Connolly, Mads Toon, Vilius Krakauskas scoring for Invicta. But the problem with Streatham is Streatham, and the champions are champions for a reason. We say that a lot here at BOTW. Danny Ingoldsby with 2, Luke Brittle with a hat-trick, as Streatham skate off with the 7-5 win to have their perfect start to the year. In the local derby, it was a first win back in this new guise for the Swindon Wildcats NHL 1 side, as they defeat the Cardiff Fire by 3-1 down in Cardiff Bay. The sort of performance that will perk up Ken Forsey, although going 1 for 10 on the power play, not the sort of special teams numbers that you'll be looking for. And a second comfortable win of the weekend for the Slough Jets. 2 away games for Lucas Smittle's side, as they win by 9-0 at the Thunderdome against the MK Thunder, and 8 different goal scorers on 9 goals. Again, just really, really impressive offense there from Slough. A very rare goal as well for Harry Hatfield, of all people. I can't remember the last time Harry Hatfield scored a goal off the top of my head. Either way, we've got the 3 teams that we expected to be close to the top of the table already are 2 weeks in. Chelmsford, Slough and Streatham, goal difference being the issue there. Those 6 goals that they conceded against Invicta making a slight dent. Slough, though, have played having started this weekend, 16 goals scored, none conceded. Chelmsford, 17 goals scored, 1 conceded. It does feel like there is going to be a gap between the top and the bottom of South 1 this season. We see the cup groups there are updating as they go as well. Streatham and Invicta leading Streatham leading the way in Group A. Romford technically leading the way in Group B by virtue of the fact they've scored more goals at the moment. We'll just skip to the end because helps if I press buttons properly, doesn't it? So here we've got the fixtures for this upcoming weekend in NHL Division 1 South. Only 2 games on the Saturday. 5:15 at Sapphire Ice and Leisure for something akin to a local derby there, that sort of triangle in that sort of eastern part, east of London as it were. The Romford Buccaneers and the Invicta Dynamos. And then 6:30, the Slough Jets and the Solent Devils. A first game for Alex Cole against his old side. Should be a very interesting encounter at the hangar, that one. Sunday the 22nd, and 5 p.m. as is customary face-off time for the Solent Devils, albeit they normally do play on a Saturday. A home game on Sunday for Alex Murray's team against the Romford Buccaneers. 5:45 in Gillingham for the big local derby, Invicta versus Chelmsford, a real proper first test for the Chieftains this season. 6:15 at the Ox Pens, the Oxford City Stars have the daunting task of taking on the Streatham Redhawks, and I'm interested to see what happens in this one, given the fact that these 2 sides are probably a bit closer together than some of the ones that they've played at the top. And Swindon Wildcats versus MK Thunder has the potential to be a low-key sleeper at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, down at the Lincoln Centre. Really, we'll be keeping an eye on that one. What have we got there? I watched Thunder versus Slough Sunday. Really dominant, moved the puck really well through the offensive zone. They are at the Slough at that level going forward are a frightening prospect. Ben, I struggle to I struggle to see where some of the lower end sides will kind of do the damage against them. But I kind of think I can see where Chelmsford and Streatham will cause them problems, because I think just being that little bit more defensively responsible, Slough panic, and their panicked mode is to do what they usually do faster, and that causes them to make more mistakes. Either way, North 2 from last weekend, 2 games on Saturday, and well, they're new to the league, and the first outing was, wasn't successful. The Deeside Ducks have their first home game and come close against last year's new boys, the Kingston Sharks. But it is the Sharks who take the points back to Hull. A 5-4 win in what was a pretty dominant performance on the shot count for Kingston, but a good showing in the immediacy for the Deeside Ducks, running a team with that extra season's worth of experience. Pretty close all in all. And then, well, the champs are back doing what they do best. A 4-goal second period from the Telford Tigers 2 as they beat the Altrincham Aces by 6-3. On Sunday, a really, really good start for last year's surprise playoff winners, the Billingham Buccaneers, back in action for the first time in 24-25. He says that. Is that their first game? Yes, it was their first game. I'm not losing my marbles. But a 7-0 win for the Billingham Buccaneers over the Bradford Bulldogs. 6 different goal scorers for the Bucks in that one as they look to try and press on and build on last season's success. Altrincham, though, not a good weekend for them, having lost away. They then lose at home by 4-1 against the Coventry NIHL Blaze in the Blazes' first outing of the year. And, well, God bless the Nottingham Lions too. It does feel like they are not ones for... they're not going to be ones battling at the top end of the table. A very, very comfortable 10-0 win for the Sutton Sting in the stats. A 7-goal third period where things look like just sort of giving up. Also not good for the Lions. A 0 for 5 on the power play. The Sting and the Sharks, then, the two teams with perfect records, with the Sharks with that overtime. With that recent overtime win against the Sheffield Titans, meaning they have 5 points to the Sting's 6. And as we can see, every team has now started, albeit the Deeside Ducks and the Bradford Bulldogs have only played the one game so far. The Titans on 1 lone point down the bottom there, as the teams start to get into bits and pieces properly. What we will just have a quick look at as we scroll our way down. We'll just have a look, just because it was their first ever game. We'll just have a quick squint here at the Deeside Ducks. Also, we'll add team records. Results to the results to make it easier. So just jumping in quick, if you're a fan of the lower divisions and no fans who are looking for game sheets, please share it around, as I'm Bobbins at self-promotion. Also, we'll add team records to the results, to help make it easier. Joe is always welcome for feedback, folks, so please do let him know. But as we can see there, the first goal in Deeside Ducks history going to Thomas Milnes, 12:41 of the second period. So congratulations to him on that one. And certainly, Deeside were 5-1 down, as we can see. They're heading into the last quarter of an hour, and then did some very good work to pull themselves back there before eventually time running out on them in that one. So it looks like the Ducks are hopefully going to kind of be there or thereabouts, or at least kind of making a challenge for that last playoff spot. A netminder in 2, or is that no? That's just it. No, that is a netminder wearing number 2. That is a very Eastern European thing that you do not see very often. But there, of course, is the opening night roster for the first night of the Deeside Ducks. Not a massive amount of names I'm personally overly familiar with, but good to see as well that guys and girls are being given chance there. Also, you can see the Heather Clarkson on D, wearing 20 there for the Ducks. But yeah, that's see there Tim Lyons as well. On the netminding list there for the Kingston Sharks, obviously been around a fair bit. Even got some time with the Seahawks at one day, and the Sheffield Steel Dogs, if I seem to remember as well. What we do then, we'll skip to the end and have a look at the fixtures for this coming weekend in North 2. Because Sheffield face-off times are funny. 5:20 on Saturday for the Sutton Sting and the Sheffield Titans in that local derby. 5:30 in Telford for the Telford Tigers and the Nottingham Lions. Don't bet your house on a Lions win there, would be my advice. Altrincham and Billingham at 5:45 over in Manchester, and 6:30 PM at the Sky Dome. The first away game for the Deeside Ducks. They have they travel to the Coventry NIHL Blaze. Sunday the 22nd then, 5pm face-off at I Sheffield for the Titans and the Telford Tigers, 5:30 at the Forum for the Buccaneers and the Sutton Sting. That could be a very, very interesting game in the title race if teams are going to get closer to challenging Telford this year. Also 5:30pm at Bradford, the Bulldogs take on the Coventry NIHL Blaze, a 2-game weekend for the Blaze. And 7:20pm, of course, it'll be live on the Nottingham Lions YouTube channel. The Nottingham Lions take on the Kingston Sharks, probably one of the better chances for the Lions to win a game this season against those teams lower down the table, closer to them when it comes for that last playoff spot. And then South 2, where not much happened of anything at all, but something of a little bit of a surprise, it should be said, given how they were last season. We've seen a lot of new, very shiny social media bits and pieces and behind-the-scenes content from the Lee Valley Lions. A very different attitude from this club going into this season. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to see the video, but certainly a very, very fascinating way that the Lions are kind of approaching bits and pieces and really kind of really putting the, trying to put their backs into doing more and doing better. And I think kind of the story there is that last stat at the end. The Lions go 1 for 10 on the power play, but they give the Haringey Huskies a scare. The Huskies get the win by 4-3 at Alexandra Palace. 2 goals from Jaden Bulcuff from defence and 2 for Jake Tyrrell. But that's a 3-all second period. Maybe the Lions really are here to play. There's always a bit of a sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing where it's come to the Lee Valley Lions over the last couple of years that they've been there to make up the numbers, and you can kind of sort of look at things and say that they're there to be kind of the plucky underdog kind of things. The Lions, if that's the result that they can get against Haringey and they can keep their heads up, do we see Lee Valley Lions in the playoffs for the first time in years? I'd love them to do it. I'd really love them to do it. I think it'd be huge for South 2 I've said to a lot of people that South 2 was a very, very wide tent in terms of its ability level. If the Lions are really, really coming to play this year and are not just going to be a team that makes up numbers and they can, travel with full benches to games and really, really make a difference, there's absolutely no reason why this team can't make the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're going to win anything. I feel that that's unrealistic given the form, but to see Lee Valley coming into this season with a different attitude and a bit of extra kind of swagger, I think that's good for hockey at this level. Elsewhere, a 5-2 win for the Invicta Mustangs against the Oxford Rising Stars. That 3-goal third period there from the Mustangs. Gibson, Lake and Oliver getting goals in that last bit there to push Invicta over the line. Just the 1 goal on one game on Sunday the 15th, and a win, a good start for the Peterborough Phantoms NHL 2 side, albeit again a team that probably almost started to let things get away from them. 4-1 up at the end of the first period, and eventually winning by 5-3. Something at least one of the Pollards scored. That way you definitely know it's Peterborough. But also a quite productive weekend there for Charlie Wedge. He played on Saturday evening for the Solent Devils in NHL 1. Had a really, really good game, actually. I thought it was a really good performance in what was not a great team performance at times from Solent. But getting 2 goals as well into the weekend for the Div 2 side, really, really good for him. All the goals, in fact, coming from defence as Chris Necros-Savicis scores the other goal for the Junior Devils in that one. 2 games in. Peterborough are the only team that's played 2 games, and they've won them both. So they're top. That's how that works. Guildford are not playing a game till October because of the scheduling, which is absolutely bonkers. The one team that is yet to start, should be starting relatively soon, is the Cardiff Canucks. They are mid-table by virtue of the fact that they have not played, but therefore have not conceded any goals either. So having not played, they have Chelmsford, Lee Valley, Solent, Bristol and Oxford below them. Only 1 game's taken part in Group A of the Cup in South 2. As it were, so Guildford and Chelmsford are the only ones who actually met there. Peterborough and Haringey sort of top of Group B at the moment as things stand. So as we can see here as well, Lee Valley actually led by 3 goals, led 2-1 and led 3-2 in that game against Haringey. They're going to be kicking themselves about that one, I venture, but it's a good start. It's a really good start from Lee Valley. I just hope they can kind of find a way to kind of convert it and push it on. And the Lions themselves are back in action this coming Saturday. They take on the Solent Junior Devils this coming Saturday at Gosport. It's a 5pm face-up on Saturday for that one. I went to that game last year. I'm fascinated to see what kind of Lee Valley Lions side we get this time. Sunday then, the first ever game for the Cardiff Canucks in their history. Trevor Hendricks' newly minted team that's trying to give young players the opportunity to train full time, get educational opportunities, as well as have a base of veterans around them like Max Mabrea, Victor Langseth are in there as well. 4:15 p.m. at Planet Ice Bristol, we'll see the Cardiff Canucks leap into life with their local derby against the Bristol Pitbulls NIHL 2. And then, well, will Luke Clark make an appearance for the Peterborough Phantoms NIHL 2 against his old side? Either way, there's a chance he could get some ice time there, but potentially not. But it's the Peterborough Phantoms NIHL 2 against the Haringey Huskies. That is at 6:30 p.m. this coming Sunday in Peterborough. So there we go. All the results, all the bits and pieces, all 5 divisions of the NIHL structure, all gone through for everybody. And, as I said, we will say it now for the folk who missed it at the beginning. This coming Friday on the BOTW YouTube channel, my interview with Ken Riddell and Alan Batchelor, the heads of NIHL's Department of Player Safety, goes live on our YouTube channel on Friday evening. So if you've wondered about how some bits and pieces happen in the background, about what didn't work well last year, what they've changed to make this year better, that'll be coming out, like I say, this coming Friday, probably around the sort of the 8 o'clock mark is the plan for that one. And yeah, all the NIHL action, that's what we do here at BOTW. We try and cover as much as we possibly can. But there we are. So we've gone through all 5 divisions of the NIHL. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anyone wants to chuck in the chat. As we say here on BOT, as we say at the What's Current stream, open door. What do we want to talk about hockey-wise? Lots of fun stuff to chat about. Whether it's NIHL, NHL, whatever we want to go to. We can talk about the Sheffield Steelers and their really good run in the continent in the Champions Hockey League. I almost call it the Continental Hockey League there, dearie me. Very different competition. Less Putin in the Champions Hockey League. I think it's great advertising for the Steelers. I think it's good for the Elite League. I'm not a huge fan of the Champions Hockey League. I still feel it's a bit, as the bigger teams don't seem to worry too much about the early stages of it. So it doesn't feel like a Champions Hockey League in the immediacy. But you know what? It's good fun for people, and if people are enjoying it, enjoy the ride. If you're a Steelers fan, have the time of your life seeing the Steelers play these big name European teams. Because you may not get the chance again. If something goes catastrophically awry, then it may not ever happen again. And get to see, high quality teams like Skellefteå, like Sparta Prague, in Sheffield. Enjoy it. Like I say, not everything has to be for everybody. Get what you can on that front. A few bits, of course, of NHL news kind of seeping through. The Columbus Blue Jackets have announced their preliminary ideas for how they're going to honour the lives of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, so definitely go check that out. Big one for the Toronto Maple Leafs fans, of course, is that the sort of hanging balance between Bell and Rogers, the two big media conglomerates who own 75% of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, that Bell are selling their stake to Rogers, so Rogers will have a controlling interest. Will have 75% controlling interest in the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, which of course is the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Raptors of the NBA, the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League, Toronto FC of Major League Soccer, and the Toronto Marlies, the American Hockey League affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs, will now be majority owned by Rogers, who are the majority owners of the Toronto Blue Jays. one entity pretty much in charge of all Toronto sport, which is pretty nuts. But that deal sees the next 20 years worth of sort of a lot of content rights for the Maple Leafs go to Bell, which feels very conglomerate, sort of handshaking each other. Massive news there though for Toronto fans in bits and pieces. Will it help the Maple Leafs get a cup? Who knows? But certainly for one of the richest organisations in the National Hockey League, and the market leader, the richest, most cash-rich market for the NHL. Huge news for this sort of big change of ownership of the Maple Leafs. That is set to go through and be completed by the middle of 2025, so it will not fully be in place properly until next season, the 25-26 NHL campaign. Elsewhere, lots of other European leagues are going to start getting rocking and rolling before too long. The Ice League in Central Europe, in Austria and in Italy and Hungary and places like that kicks off on Friday evening. I know that Nikki and Mark 4000 Accounting will be popping up in Austria at some stage during the season. I can't remember when they're going, but I definitely know they'll be around some in Vienna before too long to go check out that. If you want to check out games from that league as well, get yourself a VPN because Austrian free-to-air television that streams pretty readily online will be showing those games, but you will need a VPN if you want to watch it through those channels. If not, Google on hockey and enjoy yourself is what I'd say on that. It's a shame the Blue Jays are run pretty terribly, so I'm not hopefully improves the Leafs' chances of actually winning a cup. I suppose it depends in a way of what does the other owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the minority owner, what can he kind of chuck into the mix to kind of change things there, because of course the one thing it will do for the Maple Leafs as an organisation is it will streamline how the decisions are made. Having three entities having two entities instead of three should make it a bit easier. But yeah, there's fascinated to see what happens here. The Blue Jays are not run brilliantly, but is that a baseball operations aspect or is that ownership per se? I'm always baseball is a game I watch. I don't delve too deeply into, so I don't necessarily want to say on that. As somebody whose football team is owned by the man who owns the Golden Knights, so yeah, that seems to be all right. That seems to be going okay for the moment for us. But anything else anybody wants to chat about? What else hockey wise can we chuck in to have a chat about? Excuse me. Choke on stream, as it were. But yeah, Saturday I'll be in Swindon for Swindon versus Solway. I planned to go to this game before it was revealed it was country night. I'm not a fan of country music. Anybody who knows me for any length of time will know I'm probably going to need some earplugs. If nothing else, because Swindon always commit the cardinal sin. Country Roads comes at the end of a game. It does not come in the middle. That's how that works. I've been to Solent far too many times. Country Roads is a song you play at the end of the game when you've won. You don't play it in the middle. It's just wrong. But either way, these kind of events are always really, really interesting. It's a way of sparking and generating stuff. And as I said a moment ago, not everything is for everyone. Do I like country music? Nah. Are people going to enjoy themselves and have a bit of fun and a bit of a good time? Yeah. Rock and roll with it. It's not necessarily my choice, but it's not my decision, so it doesn't matter too much. I will go and I will turn up and I will watch Swindon, who are one of the most entertaining attacking transition sides in the league to watch, and Solway, which is a club I really enjoy watching. I love the atmosphere around the place. I like the people attached to Solway as well. So I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy that, and I'm going to make fun of Callum Hepburn is probably what I'll do. And roll with that one. I always feel like it does feel a bit strange, and certainly for me, country music doesn't feel very hockey. I realise like a lot of country music gets sort of associated with hockey because of like the people and the players, and lots of guys kind of growing up in like sort of the cowboy country in kind of Canada. But for me, country music doesn't really fit with hockey at all. It feels kind of hockey is a in your face aggressive game, and it just never seems to kind of it doesn't quite mesh for me in my brain. But hey, like I say, people enjoy different things. Life is a three-ring circus, and if you don't enjoy the lions, you'll enjoy the clowns, and if you don't enjoy the clowns, you enjoy the acrobats. The website seems to have gone down. It's gone down very well. A massive improvement. I can have fun doing attendance stats compare attendances to Elite League. Yeah, the new National Division website is good. It does feel a little bit like a sort of a light-ish version of the Elite League one at the moment. It's a real shame they're not tracking plus minus. I think that'd be a really fun stat to keep for the National Division, but I probably get why, because it will cost more to do. It is really, really good. Like I say, as someone who's had to use the Elite League site for a bunch of different things, it's good to see it being used. I think the game sheet aspect is really, really good. I really do like it, and as well, if you do it properly, it will update during the game as well, which is always very helpful. In the background, if you want to look at the sheet version of it rather than kind of the sort of the graphic heavy version of what you get on the website. But yeah, it's good in that sense. It's also very helpful, I think, that you can separate out the cup fixtures just by the cup fixtures. I think I do like that element of it as well. It does get frustrating when you're trying to kind of mirror bits and pieces up. It's actually where I quite like, where I really do like what Joe's done with the NHL stats, and you can kind of see which games are league and cup, because a much more binary mechanism like this, you have to kind of separate things out. It won't easily show you both, but there's a lot of good stuff about the new National Division website, and of course we've seen the first bits and pieces as well out of the game review panel, which we do touch on. I do touch on with Ken Riddell and Alan Batchelor from NHL Dops about how that fits into the structure, and we're kind of seeing what happens in that. Dave Clapman and Matt Thompson will review all the big penalties and say, right, that stays where it is, or this gets passed on. So you kind of get an idea of who's going to potentially get a ban and who's going to get some. It doesn't mean everybody will get a ban, but we'll see how that functions. It seems to start it out pretty well, so really enjoying that. And I do like the fact that that they've put all the stuff up there quick and easy to find. Of course, we saw the something that we've seen from the Elite League, which is the National Division goals of the week. With all the will in the world, I don't think that penalty shot goal from Matt Barron was the best goal of that game, let alone the second best goal of the week in the entire division. But something different, something new. We'll give him a mulligan for week 1 on that one. Certainly there were better goals though than that penalty shot goal. Let's be honest with it. I do agree with the number 1 goal of the week though. That Sobchak diving shot under the arm of Tyler Delabertucci is probably the best looking goal of the week. Any more for any more, I suppose, becomes the thing. Like I say, I've not got my phone. I've had my phone charging, so I haven't been able to kind of keep up with the big news. And I was, before I came on, to folk who dropped in late, the Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council sort of committee that deals with bits and pieces about buildings and estates and bits and pieces were meeting about the ice rink. And just before the show started, we came live on air. There was one of the councillors, and whether it was for the sake of diligence or whether it's because they felt like the money for a temporary rink in Basingstoke could be used better elsewhere, was making the point that there were other local rinks to go to for people who used Basingstoke. Now, I'm no expert, but Guildford is not local to Basingstoke, Gosport is not local to Basingstoke, Oxford is not local to Basingstoke, the Ozone rink at Bracknell is not local to Basingstoke. Also quite funny as well was there are Sean Dillow, who is a Conservative councillor, and Alex Lee, who is the leader of the Labour group on Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council, were both there. And whilst they have differing political opinions, they are both very, very actively in favour of bits and pieces to do with the ice rink. And listening to a councillor tell them that there was a full-sized ice pad in Bracknell and try to argue against, certainly Councillor Lee, that there is a full-sized ice pad in Bracknell was an interesting moment. Let's just say that. I'm going to go back and kind of have a sit down and a review of everything once this is done, because of course I wanted to get the show up and running. But yeah, like I say, anything else anybody kind of wants to touch on, like quite happy to hear bits and pieces. Just tapping a few bits and pieces there. Get rid of that as well. We don't need that. But yes, a busy week here. I'll be looking forward to kind of fully kicking this bug into dust, as it were. But yeah, it's been a bit of a tough one. There's a real argument whether I should have done bits yesterday, but I think I did the right thing in terms of having a go and taking my time with, I did very little during the day, a lot of time in bed, and it sort of saved all my energy up and kind of got over the worst of the bug as the day's gone on. And then this morning, having as any of you with children will appreciate, children will get you up whether you like it or not. So once my son was in school, I went back to bed and slept from about 8:30 till 11, which is a sure sign I wasn't well. But I've woken up from that and feel much better. Been able to eat a proper meal, which is big. It's always a good sign that I'm ill or well. If I can eat properly, then I'm fine, kind of thing. But hopefully the rest of you don't get any of the sort of back to school lurgies that are being passed around. I think I've had my share. I'm done now. I don't want any more, governor, kind of levels worth of stuff. If we haven't got any more, then what I might do then is I might call it slightly early. I know we normally sometimes go a little bit closer to 9:30, but I will take the opportunity, if no one's got any further questions, to just kind of knock things on the head and go and just have an extra bit of a sit down and have some more water and maybe just have a little nibble or something just to get my energy back up. Because if I'm going to go back to work tomorrow, I should at least try and be as well as I possibly can. So we'll call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. The Banners on the Road series, following my journey through British ice hockey, the latest game I've been to, will always be up there, up and written. Solent Devils, Invicta Dynamos from Saturday night. Enthralling game. All the goalies got to go. Always interesting when that kind of thing happens. So definitely go check that out, as well as our Hockey Stories series, of which the latest one will be our chat with NIHL Dops. That's coming out on Friday night. But lots of stuff from our Hockey Stories series from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war, and beyond. More stuff being worked on in the background for that one as well. Back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast is there, as well as Dice Hockey, our free to download tabletop game that you can play at home with bits and pieces from around your house. All we ask is that if you do enjoy Dice Hockey and you do download it, please just consider sticking a few quid towards Parkinson's UK. My dad has Parkinson's dementia, and it sucks. So it'd be really appreciative if we can put money towards getting a cure and bits and pieces for that. But as I said, 13 years worth of stuff, lots of great things to check out over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall if you like getting the bits and pieces through your Facebook feed, links to the shows, links to all the pieces, then by all means go over and hit the follow button there on Facebook. Twitter is X, or whatever we're calling it, is @bannersotw. That's the best place to keep up with me and my kind of rolling commentary on British ice hockey and keeping up the best way with kind of the bits and pieces I do. And the other way, of course, if you like what you see, buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. That's sort of our virtual busking hat. Banners on the Wall's never going behind a paywall. That's just not appropriate in my opinion. But if you do like what you see and you want to keep the lights on, the wheels turning, please do feel free and do consider chucking something into our virtual busking hat. Keep the lights on and the wheels running, as I've already said. buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And if you forget any of those links, the joy is that everything is down there in the description, because we're live on YouTube every Wednesday. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell. Let's keep that algorithm hamster fed and happy. And of course, you can come back here Wednesday nights 8 PM for the BOTW What's Current stream, the NIHL's best and first live show that covers all 5 divisions of the structure. And if you don't watch it live, then you can catch up on YouTube, and it's on YouTube. Should come through YouTube podcasts as well. So all those lovely bits and pieces. Well, there we go then. It took them a little while, but all 5 divisions of the NIHL are finally up and running. The National decided it was time to finally join the party. All levels of competitive hockey across Great Britain in the men's game are up and running. In the National, 52 to go. Bit less than some of the others, but you can make sure that we'll be there to keep tabs on the whole lot all the way through. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then wherever you are, please do everything you can. So please be safe. As my friend Scotty Woz would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe, and so long till next time. If you're in Swindon on Saturday, come say hello. Hopefully I'll have kicked this stomach bug by then. Have a good evening, everybody.